So the 4-burner and the kitchen sink are located at the rear of the van. We'll lift our 2 latches, sliding the kitchen sink out. We have our drop-down legs underneath. It's a simple push of the button. The legs will come out from underneath, locking into position. We also do have the prep bench. We'll slide that in for now. Unlocking the latch, putting our wind guards out for the 4-burner, and lifting our dish drying rack. The water needs to be connected each time. We have our cold water and hot water feed, just into the little Nitto fittings. We also have our little cooking light. You can simply turn that on by plugging in the little lead into our socket here. With that, we've got our gas bayonets at the back, so we can pull out our sheathed hose and plugging in to our bayonet fitting at the back, removing the dust cover and locking in position. The kitchen sink is the only part of the van not hooked up to the grey water tank. So what we need to do is we pull the little Constantine pipe out from underneath and drop into a bucket. When packing up, we make sure we disconnect everything, feed him back in. Making sure all our drawers are latched shut. Sink tap down, dish rack locked into place. Four burner latch down, our legs up. Removing our gas hose, unplugging from the bayonet fitting and placing our dust cover back on. Simply putting the hose in, just snaking it end to end. We'll then push our sink drainage hose back up. And lastly, we just want to check when we've pushed everything back in that nothing's hanging down in the way. So now that's all tucked away from hanging down, we're just slowly pushing back in. Locking into place, shutting our door. Here we have our water filler for our 2 100-litre tanks and also our mains water inlet. For our 2 100-litre tanks, all 200 litres goes in through the same inlet. What you'll do is feed in your food grade hose straight into the tanks. Now, as you fill up the first tank, the water will transfer over to the next tank. If you have a high pressure feed in and the air breather cannot release the air in time, it may squirt out. Just make sure that you do have off the gauge 100% full if you want to carry all 200 litres of water. You may need to stop, let the airflow catch back up, then feed in the second lot of water. For our mains water, you'll just remove your little cover cap, screw in the male threaded fitting and plug into town water from there. The Lowdown 13 comes with the fold away antenna, which mounts to the brackets on the driver's side of the van. We simply remove it from its casing. Position our antenna arms. Clip into the bracket. Lock into position and screwing in to the aerial inlet. When you are finished and starting to pack up, don't forget to remove the TV antenna before pulling the roof down. The Thetford toilet cassette has its own tank, so it is not running off your tank water. You'll simply need to fill from here using the little attachment from behind. You will be supplied with 2 sample chemicals, one for your flush, one for your cassette. The cassette is a 19 litre unit, the flush tank is a 10 litre unit. We have our flush gauge on the side. When we have our amount of flush that we require, we can simply put the cap on and place back in here. Now you won't get signaled that you've run out of flush, but you will get signaled it's time to empty the cassette. What we'll simply do is lift and slide out. It slides out nice and easy. If you ever feel any resistance, you may have to check inside that you haven't left the toilet chute open. After sliding this out, we can simply wheel away to where we need to go. Removing the cap. Also, don't forget to take your other cap off. Pressing the air release button and dumping. Once you are done, you can give this cassette a bit of a wash out, apply and put in some more chemical and store back away. The Lowdown 13 is fit with the 14 litre Truma Ultra Rapid system, which is gas and electric. When using the gas, what we need to do is turn the gas bottle on, remove the cowl cover, and then igniting the system inside. The Ultra Rapid has 2 settings on the gas, either 60 degrees or 70 degrees. You'll select your temperature. You'll hear the solenoid kick in and try to light. Waiting 5 to 10 seconds. And as you can see, we have a red light fault. So that's telling us one of 2 things. Either the gas has not got to it in time, or you've basically left the cover on. So it's just showing us that we've got a fault. You'll just need to simply switch it back into the middle, wait, try again. Now, if you receive another fault, you'll do repeat steps 1 again, just switching it straight back on. Now, if you get another fault the 3rd time, you may have to check that, you haven't left the cover off, or simply try something else for a little bit, because if too much gas has gone into that cowl area, for a safety reason, the Truma Ultra Rapid will not light. The more times you sit here flicking the button, sending in more gas, the longer you're going to have to wait for it to ventilate. Now, if you're looking to take advantage of being on a powered site and use the Truma Ultra Rapid as its 240 volt system, you'll simply need to just come under the first hatch and turning on at the power point. Other than that, you do not need to remove the cowl cover, you do not need to select the temperature, as it is automatic. When you have finished using the Truma hot water system, you will need to dump the water if you are storing for a long period of time, as there is no anode in this system. All you'll need to simply do is lift the little tab from underneath to a vertical position to let the 14 litre unit drain itself from there. If you're inside, obviously you'll need a 15 litre bucket. Otherwise, if you're leaving your campsite, you can leave it on the grass. The Lowdown 13 is fitted with a 2000 watt inverter. That inverter will either have a digital display screen or a little fob key to turn on and off. You'll simply turn the inverter power on when off grid, and then you can make use of your labelled black PowerPoint inverter only 2000 watt max. When you are finished with the inverter, do make sure that you do turn this off, as if you have left this on, this can drain the battery even when not in use. In the front storage here, we have 2 circuit breakers. One is for your main 12 volt supply. So when storing the van, you can simply push the little button in and the toggle will pop out from underneath. When you come back to use your van, simply pop him back into position. The second circuit breaker is for your Anderson plug off the front, so that if your car feeds through a big charge, it's going to stop here before doing any damage to the DC to DC charger or your batteries. The DC to DC charger does sit under here. You can get your digital readout showing you how much the batteries are taking in from either your solar or the car. When you're running off the solar panels, we've got the 300 watts on the roof, and if you're looking to use additional panels, we can run through the dedicated Anderson plug off the front drawbar. make sure your panels are unregulated, as the DC to DC charger will regulate this feed. The main control panel is all up the front underneath the front bed. Everything is labelled. We've got our instrument light, which is taking control of all the front here, so if you don't want to have the lights flashing at you at night, you can simply turn that off. Handle light is your door handle light. Outside lights are your outside lights. Light is your external shower light. Your light is your sensor light, so your fridge slide and your generator box. And pump is your water pump. We have little isolated breakers above, so if anything becomes a drama, they are all isolated. Simply the little breaker will pop, the light will go out and can be reset. Over here we have our digital displays for our grey water tank and our clean water tanks, showing you how full they are. We have our voltmeter, which is showing us at the moment we're at 12.8 volts and we are drawing 2.4 amps. The batteries are at 94% full. We have our 2 speakers and our radio.
Excellent.
The Energize 40 amp AC charger is located under the seat. We leave this plugged in so that as soon as you plug into your mains power inlet, your charger will come on. This is all set up for whichever batteries you have installed in the Lowdown 13. If it's the standard 100 amp deep cycle batteries, otherwise if it's the lithium upgrade, the charges will be set before you pick the van up. When opening up the rear of the van, it is a nice, quick, simple job. We remove the 2 pins. Pulling the spare wheels down and slotting the pins back in behind. We can then unlock the rear, putting our wings out to the side. Unlatching from the top. Opening up the back, we've got 2 little locks in place here, 1 and 2, lifting up. And locking into position. So now we're going to roll out the 4-meter awning, simply unwinding. Now we want to wind it out, and generally once we're about 500 out, you could go a little further, but the closer to the van the better. We're simply pulling the leg out, dropping down, locking into place, and same with the other side. Now we can continue to wind out. Now if you're by yourself like I am, each time the legs are on a bit of an angle, we simply displace, extend a little further out. So as we come to the end of the awning winding out, we want to keep an eye on the vinyl. We watch and we see it go saggy here. Now what we want to do is start to turn back, and as we start to see the legs here kick back in, we know that that has started moving back in. It's tightened the vinyl up so that when our anti-flap goes on, it's going to slot in nice and easily. It's the perfect length for the 2.4 for the anti-flap kit. And that we also know that even if we're not using the anti-flap kit and we've got this set up over the weekend, it's less likely to move in its little track up the top, causing it after a bit of high winds or something to slide along, so that when you do close it all up, that it will shut back into place and it hasn't moved. So what we're going to do now is install the anti-flap kit. So we're going to start low, so we'll lower these legs a little bit so we're working at head height. Now, before you put the anti-flap on, just make sure the little knobs aren't protruding through the anti-flap. If they do, the jaws will never go over the top. We will then simply put into the little bracket here in the awning. We're going to stay clear of this awning guide. If we go out too wide and do damage to that, the awning won't lock itself back into place properly. So what we do is we put the mouthpiece in, we stay on the inside of the leg until we need to move to the outside. We go up and over, retract the lever, and there's a little nut and bolt up the top here where it locks itself into place. So once we have the bar into place, we can then grab the clamps from over top. Now we don't want to go underneath the awning, we want to go right up to it. Simply putting into place, clipping into position. The main part you'd have to look for, clipping into position, is where the two joins are, where it overlaps. Clicking in, doing up all your anti-flap knobs so that it grabs the vinyl. So we're all in place here. We need to put our second one on. So we butt up to this one, and you'll see here what it does. It goes over the top here of the end piece on the awning. So we need to push the anti-flap arm up a little. Then it clicks into place as we tighten up each of our knobs here. And we can do the same on the other side. Next, we can slide all our sail track pieces in. Next, we can put our draft skirt on. And that just goes on via the press studs. Now when you put this draft skirt on, you do have to go from either left to right or right to left due to the step. You cannot just slip this on after, so you need to continue along the way. So we'll pull the step out, we'll lock it in behind, slipping it up underneath. Once we've got all this into place, we can choose to independently set up the walls, or today we're going to do the full annex. So what we'll do is chuck each wall up. And then finally, we can roll up our canvas so we can get a bit of airflow through. Once all the canvas is up, then we can just make sure our legs are adjusted to the height that we need them to at each end and put in the minimum poles that are needed. We have one pole at the front and at the rear of the annex so that it will brace against any wind. We simply slot it up into the anti-flap kit, into its little case underneath, and lock that in position. Don't forget to loop this in as well through the velcros so that if any heights change, it doesn't slip out of place. You can do the same at the opposite end. And then we have our final poles, which are even good for use when not using the full Lennox. What this does is braces out the middle, supports the vinyl, so that if you do have any rain, it's got somewhere to run off, and it also will stop the wind from having any hold on this. So what we do is simply put the spike then in, over the top, back against the van, and there's the full handover for the Lowdown 13. If you have any questions or would like any further information, please don't hesitate to contact one of our friendly staff.